Was a Polish resistance fighter who volunteered to go to Auschwitz, from where he sent secret messages to warn the world.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at fascinating stories from history that deserve more attention.
It would have been microscopic, so to speak.
Number 10. Voytech the Wartime Bear. Ain't no rules say a bear can't serve in World War II. In what sounds like something from a Disney movie, a boy in Iran discovered a bear whose mother had been shot by hunters. At the request of a Polish general's great niece, Anders' army purchased the bear, who'd be named Wojtek, aka Happy Warrior.
Wojtek had officially joined the army.
To the 22nd Artillery Supply Company, Wojtek was more than a mascot. He was one of their own, drinking with soldiers, smoking and eating cigarettes, and marching on two legs. Wojtek even carried ammunition crates. To keep Wojtek in their care, the bear was officially made a private and then a corporal.
I didn't realize that he had got a rank, and I didn't realize that they had got to that state. This was the added incentive that people would recognize him as a genuine entity of the Second Polish Army.
After the war, Wojtek was donated to Scotland's Edinburgh Zoo, where he lived out the rest of his life. Number 9. The Bloody Benders. In an age overrun with true crime content, we're surprised more people aren't familiar with the Bloody Benders.
The Bloody Benders. John Bender, Kate Bender, and Kate Bender.
The Benders were a family of 4, although it's debated whether the 2 youngest were siblings or a couple. That's one of the many missing puzzle pieces, including where they came from before arriving in Kansas. What we can say with certainty is that the Benders ran an inn and claimed more than 10 lives over roughly 2 years. Eventually, one of the missing travelers' brothers, a colonel during the Civil War, started an investigation.
On April 4th, 1873, investigators questioned the Benders, deducing that their home was the last place the doctor was seen alive.
By the time bodies were uncovered, the Benders had already fled. While several accused accomplices were arrested, there are conflicting reports over whether the Benders were killed or got away with murder.
During the search, the Benders' wagon was discovered abandoned in Thayer, Kansas, 16 miles north of Cherryvale. A train agent reported selling 4 people that matched the Benders' description tickets to Humboldt, 20 miles north of Thayer. After that, the lead went cold.
Number 8. The Great Emu War. Limu, Emu, and Doug might lead you to believe that flightless birds and humans have always coexisted in harmony. Long before they helped people save money on car insurance, the emu was man's natural enemy. More specifically, they were the enemies of Australian farmers in 1932.
As many as 20,000 migrating emus found their way onto farms after breeding.
Between World Wars I and II, Australians went to war with emus, which had been destroying crops at a time when wheat was in demand. When we say war, you might think we're exaggerating, but many of these farmers were former soldiers, and armed soldiers from the Royal Australian Artillery even got involved.
The worst part about emus is that it's not what they eat, it's what they flatten, what they just tramp around out in the crop and knock it all over and play in it and just be a damn nuisance.
Although a reported 2,500 emus were slain, the birds were faster, stronger, and more agile than expected, winning the war with most of the population preserved.
One thing's for sure, Australia greatly underestimated the emus.
Number 7. The Kentucky Meat Shower. Has it ever literally rained cats and dogs? Well, it remains unclear what kind of meat fell from the sky on March 3rd, 1876, so maybe?
On March 3rd, 1876, Rebecca Crouch was outside with her grandson when meat started to rain down in Bath County. That's in eastern Kentucky.
Kentucky residents felt like they were in a scene straight out of Exodus when what looked like pieces of red meat bombarded the land below. It only lasted a few minutes, between 11 a.m. and noon, but historians are still searching for answers over a century later.
A lot of people left here impressed and enjoyed very, very interesting stories. Actually, it came from other people who had relatives or descendants. They were descendants of people that visited or saw it back when it happened.
Assuming these chunks from the heavens were indeed meat, people couldn't seem to agree on whether it derived from cattle, lamb, or even humans. As for how this happened, the most popular theory was that vultures vomited while in flight. Whatever the explanation, it's an enigma with plenty to chew on.
When I was in school, it was part of history class. You talked about things like that.
Number 6. President Lincoln's theater guests. Much has been written about Abraham Lincoln, John Wilkes Booth, and the assassination that altered American history.
As the audience laughed uproariously, the assassin slipped easily into the president's box. He moved like a shadow, with a grace at odds with his purpose.
What many fail to realize is that the Lincolns weren't the only ones sitting in the presidential box that fateful night. Henry Rathbone, a lawyer turned Union Army officer, and his fiancée, Clara Harris, were invited to Ford's Theater as Lincoln's guests. Once the shot was fired, Rathbone attempted to stop Booth, who stabbed him as he made his escape.
Henry had been cut deep, almost to the bone, from his elbow to his shoulder.
Rathbone recovered from his physical wounds, but his mental health diminished over time. After marrying, Rathbone killed Harris. Their children might have met the same fate if not for a groundskeeper. Although Rathbone attempted to take his own life, he spent the remainder of his days institutionalized.
He remained there until his death in 1911.
Number 5. The Fairy of Verdon. A soprano opera singer from Paris, Nellie Martel regularly appeared on stage and in fashion magazines. Amid World War I, Martel pursued a new career path as a Red Cross nurse. Between 1916 and 1917, she provided aid during the Battle of Verdun and the Second Battle of the Aisne. For her efforts at the former, Martel came to be known as the Fairy of Verdun. Even after the war ended, Martel dedicated herself to helping others. She provided care throughout the 1918 flu pandemic and later started a medical charity. Martel would be honored with the Croix de Guerre, a French military award for soldiers who served in the First World War. Yet her name deserves to be sung higher praises. Number 4. The Dancing Plague of 1518. Dance fever is one thing, but a dancing plague? That's the only way to describe the bizarre phenomenon that, for lack of a better word, plagued the city of Strasbourg in 1518.
July 1518, a normal day in the beautiful riverside city.
Frau Troffea was reportedly the first person who took to the streets and broke out into dance. Over time, her solo act turned into an ensemble piece that ranged from 50 to 400 dancers. Some would supposedly dance themselves to death over the weeks, which turned into months.
After consulting doctors and astronomers of the time, the nobles of Strasbourg announced that the mania was a natural disease caused by hot blood and ordered the workers to construct a giant stage for the dancers.
What inspired this case of dance mania? Mass hysteria brought on by stress? Food poisoning from ergot fungi? We may never know for sure, but the only thing crazier than the story itself is the fact that it's not taught in more schools. Number 3. Yasuke, the African Samurai. In 1581, an Italian Jesuit missionary named Alessandro Vigliano met with Oda Nobunaga, the first of Japan's 3 great unifiers. In Vigliano's company was a black man whom the missionaries employed for protection.
There was a lot of commotion surrounding his presence. At the time, the average height of a Japanese man would have been 5 feet 2 inches tall. He was well over 6 feet tall.
Nobunaga was intrigued by the African man's skin color, initially convinced it was paint. Hitting it off, Nobunaga requested that the man join his service, giving him the Japanese name Yasuke.
Nobunaga and Yasuke fought in many battles together for a period of about 3.5 or 4 years.
He not only stood out as a black samurai, but the first documented samurai who didn't originate from Japan. Following Nobunaga's death, Yasuke served his son and successor, Oda Nobutada. Yasuke was captured by the forces of Akechi Mitsuhide, the general who betrayed Nobunaga. The African samurai was spared, although what became of him after is a mystery.
And what do they call you, the samurai that was once a servant?
Yasuke.
Number 2. Project A119. In the mid-20th century, the U.S. raced against the Soviet Union to reach the moon first. America fell behind its Cold War rival with the launch of Sputnik 1.
And in comparison, the United States was feared to be looking puny.
While the U.S. retaliated with Explorer 1 shortly after, the Air Force was conceiving another plan to one-up the Soviet Union, nuke the moon. Dubbed Project A119, the plan was to send a nuclear device to the moon, causing an explosion that could be seen from Earth. Surely this would lift the spirits of the American people, right?
Are you suggesting that we blow up the moon?
Would you miss it? Would you miss it?
It was rumored that the Soviet Union had a similar operation in mind, planning to use a hydrogen bomb. Project A119 was ultimately deemed too potentially hazardous, opting to put a man on the moon instead.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1. Undercover in Auschwitz. Getting captured on purpose is a common trope in movies. For Polish officer Witold Pilecki, though, it was part of a real plan that sent him to one of human history's most dangerous and inhumane locales, Auschwitz.
Why for you was it important to tell this man's story?
Well, Witold Pilecki did the extraordinary.
Pilecki agreed to infiltrate the infamous concentration camp, which had been established a few months earlier. Allowing himself to get arrested with about 2,000 others, he arrived at Auschwitz with a fake identity and formed a resistance.
In the face of mankind's greatest evil, he was able to stand up to it, create a network of fellow resistors, and defy the Nazis at the height of their power.
Receiving help from inmates, Pilecki sent reports about the atrocities taking place to the Home Army. After nearly 3 years, Pilecki staged his escape with 2 fellow prisoners, eventually making it to a safe house.
They go to the bakery and they kill the alarm, they cut the wires, and then at night, when there is an opportunity, 3 of them try to simply open this massive metal door, and then they simply escape.
Ironically, the house had belonged to Tomasz Serafiński, the name Pilecki used while undercover. What are some other crazy historical stories that not enough people talk about? Let us know in the comments.
We didn't want to clutter up the natural radioactivities of the moon.